Okay, hello everyone, Clarke Towson here. I'm the CEO of INTJ Billing. Today's video, I want to talk a bit about freedom, democracy, and politics here in the Kingdom of Thailand. Thailand is a flawed democracy. What is a flawed democracy? Flawed democracy is a country that's got, like Thailand, for example, a history of political instability. Thailand has a history of political instability and frequent coups. Since the end of the absolute monarchy in 1932, the country has experienced 18 coups or attempted coups. This has led to a lack of continuity in government policies and a lack of trust in the democratic process. Corruption. Corruption is a pervasive problem here in Thailand and undermines the functioning of the government and the democratic process. This can be seen in the way that politicians and business leaders have been able to use their wealth and their influence to manipulate the political system for their own benefit. Lack of checks and balances. The Thai political system has been criticized for its lack of checks and balances. The judiciary, for example, is not independent from the executive branch and has been used as a tool to support the government in power. This undermines the rule of law and the democratic process. Weak civil society. Thailand has a weak civil society, which means that there are not many independent organizations and groups that can hold the government accountable. This makes it difficult for citizens to advocate for their rights and for their interests. Divided politics. Thai politics are divided between two main factions, one supporting the Shinawatra family, who are popular among rural and poor population. The other one, more royalist and urban, who supports the military and other traditional elites. This divide often leads to protests and political deadlocks, and has been a factor that has contributed to the frequent coups in the country. These factors have contributed to a lack of legitimacy and a lack of trust in the democratic process in Thailand, which has affected the stability and the development of the country. Let's talk a little bit about democratic uprisings here in the Kingdom of Thailand. Thailand has a history of democratic uprisings with several significant protests and political movements taking place in the country over the years. Some notable examples include the People's Revolution of 1973, which was led by students and intellectuals and resulted in the fall of the military dictatorship and the return to a civilian government. The Yellow Shirt protests of 2006 to 2008, which were led by the People's Alliance for Democracy and aimed to remove then Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra from power. The protests led to the military coup of 2006, which ousted Thaksin from power. The Red Shirt protests of 2010, which were led by supporters of Thaksin and aimed to reinstate the elected government. Protests resulted in a violent crackdown by the military and left many people dead or injured. The Sunset protests of 2013 to 2014, which were led by the People's Democratic Reform Committee, aimed to remove then Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra from power, and this led to the military coup of 2014. Now, all these movements and protests had different leaders, different ideologies, and different triggers. What they had in common, all of them, was the demand of changes to the political system and to the government in power. Now, what led to the military coup in 2014? What led to that? The Thailand military coup in 2014 was led by General Prayut Chan-o-cha, who was the commander-in-chief of the Royal Thai Army at the time. The coup was a result of ongoing political turmoil and protests in the country, which had been ongoing for several years. The main trigger for the coup was the inability of the government and political parties to resolve the crisis, and the military's perception that the situation was spiraling out of control and threatening the stability of the country. The military stated that the coup was necessary to restore order and stability in the country and to prevent further chaos and further violence. Now, I should ask the question, has there been any examples of democratic uprisings where the government has cut off people's banking and payments? So any examples of that, worldwide? The answer, of course, is yes. There have been a number of examples of governments cutting off access to banking and payment systems during democratic uprisings or political crises. This is often done, of course, as a way to control and restrict the flow of money and resources to opposition groups and protesters. Some examples of this: 2011, during the Arab Spring uprisings, the government of Egypt cut off access to the internet and mobile networks, which effectively shut down online banking and payment systems. This made it difficult for protesters to organise and communicate, and also hindered their ability to raise funds. In 2013, during the political crisis in Turkey, the government froze the bank accounts of several organisations and individuals that were involved in anti-government protests. In 2018, during the political crisis in Venezuela, the government restricted access to the banking system for opposition leaders and organisations, as well as for businesses, making it hard for them to receive payments, which of course also affected the rest of the population. In 2020, of course, there were the protests in Hong Kong. The government had been freezing the bank accounts of pro-democracy activists and opposition figures, as well as pressuring businesses to cut ties with them. These actions are part of the government's efforts to control the flow of money and resources to the opposition and make it harder for them to organise and sustain their movements. I think it's really useful to ask the question, looking at the protests in Hong Kong in particular, being a very those only happened a couple of years ago. So to ask the question how Bitcoin was used during the protests in Hong Kong, how did the protesters use Bitcoin? So Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as well were used by some pro-democracy activists and supporters in Hong Kong as a way to raise funds and make donations for their cause. Of course, this is because Bitcoin and other cryptos allow for fast and secure transactions that can be done either anonymously or pseudo-anonymously, which make it difficult for the government to trace or control. Of course, that depends upon the cryptocurrency. Obviously, Monero is a crypto which is very, very difficult for the government to trace, and it is very anonymous. Bitcoin, however, for example, has got an open and public blockchain. So tracing Bitcoin movements on chain is relatively easy for the government to do, and they use all sorts of chain analysis techniques and firms to achieve that. Of course, using the Bitcoin Lightning Network, that provides, as a second layer payment solution that allows for more privacy than making the payments on chain. Now, during the 2019-2020 protests in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Free Press, a non-profit independent news outlet, and the Spark Alliance, a civil society organisation, started accepting Bitcoin donations as a way to bypass the censorship and the freezing of their bank accounts by the government. They used Bitcoin as a way for people to contribute to the movement without fear of government retaliation. Now, in addition, there were several Hong Kong-based Bitcoin and cryptocurrency exchanges and companies such as BitMEX. They also pledged to match their employees' donations to the pro-democracy movement using Bitcoin. It's worth noting that during those Hong Kong protests, the use of Bitcoin was not a widespread phenomenon. And it's one of the various ways that people are using to support the movement. So despite Bitcoin being around since 2008, 2009, even during the Hong Kong protests, 10 years later, 11, 12 years later, wasn't widespread, the use of Bitcoin during those protests, but it was used, right? It was still used, but it indicates again just how early we are with all of this. Now, this begs the question, right? How might Bitcoin be used during a democratic uprising here in the Kingdom of Thailand? So, of course, Bitcoin and other cryptos could be potentially very useful during a democratic uprising as a way to bypass government controls and restrictions on the flow of money and resources. Some ways Bitcoin could be used for this include facilitating secure and anonymous donations. Bitcoin allows for fast and secure transactions that can be done pseudo-anonymously, right? Which makes it somewhat difficult for the government to trace or control. I guess it's easier for the government to trace a Bitcoin transaction done on-chain than what it is for them to control that transaction, right? Yeah, I think that's important to note. So, of course, this makes it possible for supporters of the democratic uprising to make donations to the movement without fear of government retaliation. So, using Bitcoin in the right way could be very useful for that. Bypassing censorship and financial restrictions. During a democratic uprising, the government may attempt to censor the internet and restrict access to financial systems in order to control the flow of money and resources to the opposition. Bitcoin and other cryptos, as decentralized digital currencies, are not controlled by any government or financial institution, which would make it possible for supporters to bypass these restrictions and continue the movement. Helping to fund anti-government media and organizations. Bitcoin and other cryptos could be used to fund anti-government media outlets and organizations that work to promote democracy and human rights in Thailand. Helping fund goods and services of the protests. Bitcoin can facilitate fast and secure payments for goods and services for the protests, allowing the protests to continue and to grow. Now, it's important to note the use of Bitcoin during a democratic uprising will not be without challenges, as the government, of course, may try to block or restrict access to the internet and cryptocurrency exchanges, including the exchange that my company, INTJ Billing, is setting up here in the Kingdom of Thailand. Additionally, not everyone may have access to or be familiar with using Bitcoin. And of course, trust is a factor, as was seen yesterday when I went down to Soy 61 with Ladyboy Oi and tried to get 4 sex workers set up with Bitcoin wallets, and they didn't trust us. Hence, necessitating us to work at the higher level with the bar owners, bar managers, and so on. Now, of course, when it comes to that factor of people not being familiar with Bitcoin, not having Bitcoin wallets set up, and so on, that's something that I can very much help with, as you can see by my work here on my YouTube channel. It's my presence in Thailand here physically, and working one-on-one, I can do that with individuals or with groups of Thais, helping to educate them about Bitcoin and how it can benefit them. Thailand, Kingdom of Thailand, flawed democracy, political instability, military coups, democratic uprisings, protests, banking and payment systems being cut off. These are all excellent reasons to be prepared, and for me to do this work, setting up both custodial and non-custodial Bitcoin wallets for the Thai bar girls. Remember, custodial and non-custodial. It's all about getting 2 wallets set up. So we want 1 wallet set up on the Thai bar girl's phone, so that wallet is is on her phone, and there's the other wallet which is set up on INTJ Billings infrastructure. So she's got those two options, right? When it comes to the custodial wallet on her phone, okay, my company, INTJ Billing, is of course offering a custodianship Bitcoin seed phrase service so that we can securely store her seed phrase at Siam Secure. Because many bar girls will lose their seed phrases, but it's important that she's got the custodial and the non-custodial wallet set up. Yeah. So if you think about it, right, if and when the shit hits the fan, again here in Thailand, if we in the nightlife entertainment industry have got all the sex workers, bar hostesses set up with Bitcoin hot wallets, we will be very well prepared. Might even get us in the news, hey? All right. How our keen foresight, our insight and our foresight and our innovation gave us the ability to bypass financial censorship. Of course, all eyes will then focus on us. Questions will be asked, right? How did we achieve this, right? How in the hell did those sex workers achieve this? How are they getting those payments through? So remember, the sex industry is not exactly universally liked, right? So we have to look after ourselves. Bitcoin, self-hosted, self-administered BTCPay server, empowering the bar girls, empowering the bar managers, empowering the owners of the bars, right? Empowering anyone else as well that's connected to the industry and interested in working with us, right? Empowerment, very important. And that's what my project, Bitcoin is for Everyone, is all about, all right? By working closely together in the spirit of teamwork and cooperation, we have an excellent opportunity to do something great, right? To be prepared before everybody else, right? Thinking about my role over here in Thailand, I came over here, I created the role, right? Simply by coming over here and doing what I do best. My role is here. I'm providing services here. I see this as the best use of my time. Right? This, of course, doesn't go unnoticed. People within the nightlife industry and others, they know that I'm over here. They know that I've got this YouTube channel. They know that my goal is to set up, I've got this vision of setting up every sex worker in Soi 6 with Bitcoin hot wallets, both on their phone and on my company's infrastructure. Right? We work together to achieve this. That's the most important part, right? We come together, we work together, we achieve something great, something that wouldn't have been achieved if I hadn't have come over here. There's an existing system that's running over here in Thailand. Think of the bars and think of each bar as a business, and then all the bars in Soi 6 as individual businesses, some of which are owned by one entity, but they're systems, right? They're systems. They've got a structure. They've got people working for them. They've got procedures. It's a system. Remember the John C. Maxwell lecture on leadership and economics. When somebody who's part of one system in another place ups and leaves that place and comes over and starts working in another system, right, they can achieve some great things. Leadership and economics was the title of that lecture. Right? And someone's got the skills, knowledge, experience, the leadership skills, the managerial skills, comes over, starts work in another system where that person's skills, knowledge, experience, leadership skills, etc., where that system hasn't had somebody like that before within the system, that is what provides value, right? Things can then get done that wouldn't have otherwise gotten done without that person upping and leaving their country and coming over here to a new country and working in a different system. So that's all I really wanted to discuss today with this. Democratic uprisings, freedom, democracy, for democracy, being prepared, right? Doing this work, all very important. So that's it from me. All the best, everyone. I'm Clarke Towson, CEO of INTJ Billing.